Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with a quick little first impressions video for you. This is the Wii 803 Rectifier. This is a new model from Wii and is continuing in the tradition that I really like about Wii lately. Not tradition, I guess direction that they're going, making stuff that's a bit more practical and a bit more in the regular consumer sort of market. And this one is definitely hitting right in the middle of a very hot category right now. This is $144.50 and has a slightly less than 3-inch blade. It's going up against knives like the Spyderco Para 3. It's going up against knives like the Steel Will Mini Cut Jack and the M390 Italian version, which are very popular knives. It's definitely hitting that 3-inch, sub 3-inch, higher end without being crazy sort of market. And it's a very brave category for them to just jump into. It's not something they usually do. And they've made one major departure, especially with the blade. Wii was known to have thicker blade stock usually. Not so much anymore. They have 3 new models coming out that all have very thin blade stock. This is one of them. This is only a 0.10 inch blade stock, and it is a high hollow grind. Very, very, very thin behind the edge. This is a very, very slicey, cutty knife. Not saying that previous Wiis weren't slicey, but not as slicey as this. This is a very, very slicey knife, and I'm very happy to see them going this way. As I said, this is mostly just a first impressions video. I've only had this for less than a day. I got it this morning. I'm recording this late in the afternoon. I tried to use it as much as I could in that time, but I'm leaving for a couple weeks to a country where I can't carry this, so I wanted to get something out there before I left, because it's just going to be sitting here the whole time I'm gone. But they do a great job. I really like the look of it. It's nothing that's mind-blowingly cool, but it's a tasteful looking knife, I guess I would say. It is a titanium frame lock on this side, just G10 on this side. There are no liners or anything like that. It does come in multiple colors. It comes in either this black, a green, or a tan, and you can get either the stonewash finish with machine flats like I have, or you could opt for DLC coated with machine flats. I obviously chose the most boring one because I am me, and that is how my brain works. But I do really like the way it looks. It's again, it's not something that I just think is gorgeous and I want to look at, but for a worker knife, and this is designed to definitely be like a user knife, it's great. It looks pretty good. I'm not as hot about the blue hardware. I am so happy that it's Torx. Wii's definitely running away from the fucking Torx screws, but the blue ones look great, and they are really good screws. I mean, they do a great job with them. They make their own screws. They sit in really deep. They lock up really nice. They, as I said in another review of another Wii knife, they've gone from having the worst screws before when they had those stupid star screws to some of the best in the industry. So very happy with that. I do like that the lock bar relief is on the inside, so you have a nice smooth side over here. So they've done a lot of really great things design-wise with it, and they have to, because I think they're well aware they're jumping into a pretty competitive market. I said this is $144.50. A Para 3 is like $130, up to like $160, depending on what blade steel you get. And then you've got, you know, your Steel Will Mini Cut Jack, pretty similar price to this with M390. So yeah, they know they're jumping into a competitive market, but they've taken a pretty good swing here, I do have to say. Let's do some specs really quick. We have 6.9 inch overall length, blade length 2.95 inches. As I said, very thin slicey blade of 0.10 inches, and you have a handle thickness of just 0.4 inches, so pretty slim. And also, it only weighs 2.75 ounces. Not bad for a titanium frame lock, partly because one side is not titanium, one side is G10. But the weight on it's great. And yeah, and quality is also really, really good. I have no issues whatsoever. We've got perfect blade centering. Lockup is good. I've done absolutely nothing with this since I took it out of the box other than flip it around and cut some stuff with it. But I have not torn it apart. Not in a big hurry to. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's do some quick size comparisons just to give you a better idea what size this thing is. We will compare it first against one of our standards, the Spyderco Delica 4. Almost exactly the same size as a Delica 4. your Rat Model 2. And your Kershaw Dividend. Just a tick smaller than a Dividend. Just a tick. I don't know why my voice went up so high there at that moment. And let's also compare it against the Steel Wheel Mini Cut Jack. This is the Chinese D2 version, but the M390 Italian-made version that runs on bearings that is very similarly priced to the Rectifier, it would be exactly the same size. It's exactly the same pattern. So as you can see, almost exactly the same size. So these are two knives that I think people, if this was the M390 version, I think would be considering a lot. So if someone wants to loan me one of the cut jacks, the mini cut jacks in M390, I would love to do a comparison. I only have the large cut jack. I don't, in M390, I don't have the small one in that. And probably not going to buy it because, you know, money exists. So yeah, that's what sizes you're looking at. Let's do one more. Let's just do one more because I just want to compare it against something bigger so you get an idea. This is your paramilitary 2, so you can see it's quite a bit smaller than a paramilitary 2. This is not a huge knife by any stretch of the imagination. Now let's talk about the knife itself. The blade on this thing, as I said, big departure from Wii that it's so thin, and it's also very high hollow grind and super thin behind the edge. This knife is really slicey. Very, very, very slicey. Very good. I have not done enough to like rank it on my slicey knives, but I hacked through some cardboard this afternoon just to play with it for a minute, and just like butter, just glides through it. It's ultra thin behind the edge. Let's check here. Actually, I've got my calipers here next to me. Again, I said this is a first impressions video, so I'm not as prepared as I always am. Yeah. 16 thousandths behind the edge. It's thin. It's very thin. And it is super slicey. S35 VN steel. Nothing to complain about here in that price range. That is completely commensurate with this price range. Yep. Glides through everything great. Sharpening choil is good. I have one slight complaint about the blade, and that is it's got a little bit of recurve. And I don't understand. I think Nick calls it non-committal recurve, and that's kind of what I would too. It's just going to make it more difficult for me to sharpen. I have the round stones and stuff to do that, but I would like the option to use more sharpening systems on it. I know that if I had a good guided system, I could get rid of that in 2 seconds, but I don't, and I wouldn't if I did probably, because I don't like altering knives that much. I'll just use my round stones. They work fine. But yeah, if you hate any sort of recurve at all, this does have just a tick of it. But I don't mind because it cuts so well. It's just, it redeems itself immediately as soon as you're trying to cut through some cardboard. We'll see if that bothers me longer term. It's going to be at least a month before I do a full-on review of this. But yeah, not too bad. Ergonomics also pretty darn good. It fits in my hand just as well as my Para 3 did. Unfortunately, I don't have it here to show you side by side. I sold it, but I'm going to get another one when the S35 comes out. But yeah, it fits in my hand really well. Works really well. Carry is also very good. It's very slim. This is all very slick. Slides in and out of the pocket easy. I like that a lot. Yeah, there's no hot spots or anything when you grip on it. As I said before, deployment is great. It rockets right out. Detent is perfect. No complaints about the detent whatsoever. No lock rock, no blade play, anything like that. It's just a really nice knife. It's a very good, what they were looking for. I think this is what they wanted, was a smaller user kind of knife. And they've done it. Titanium backspacer, if I didn't mention that before. This is just $144.50. Nothing at $144.50 is easy to call a bargain, but it's not too hard to call this one a bargain. It comes with all the great Wii stuff. It's got the little bag and the, you know, Rolls-Royce looking floor mat liners and your little cloth and all that stuff. No star screw wrench because you don't need it. Yay! But yeah, very little to complain about on first impressions. Just that slight little bit of recurve is a bit annoying, but again, it cuts so well, I kind of almost just forgive that. And I wish that the Torx screws were gray instead of the blue. It's just, but that's my boringness. It may not bother anybody else, but it looks really odd on the green, like the green handle one with the blue torque screws. Looks kind of weird. But those are just colors that I don't think go together. But that's an aesthetic thing, which is personal choice. But first impressions are great knife. I will let you know more as time goes on. But very happy that we came out with this. And I actually sold my Wii Ignition in anticipation of this so that I could afford to buy this. And I do like this better than the Ignition, so I think I made a good choice there. The Ignition's a great knife too, but this is a really great knife, is my first impression of it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.